when it's the red light. Here, in Beijing, he says, I would follow the general trend of the Chinese, which means automatically you go against the red light when there's no cars coming.
Yeah, this is the point I want to make. Environment is very important.
Exactly. I'm talking about the cultivation of a nice social environment.
Yes.
Right, well, I mean, well, the point is this. When I got here 20 years ago, I've been here 20 years now. It came in 1987. Rule of law has been evolving for 20 years. Okay, when I got here, there was no bar examination. There was no way for people to be able to sit to become a lawyer. When I went to work for a Chinese law firm, which I was the first American to do, the first foreigner to do since 1949, there were two people with legal education, myself and a guy called Jiaohong who was educated in China before 1949. And the rest of them, all other 50 other people, didn't have one single day of legal education. But ignorance of the law does not mean that you're free from the law. But the whole problem is there were only a few legal education places that you could get law education, and it wasn't even law education. It was public policy, it was political education. It wasn't about laws and regulations. And so as a result, how can you expect anything to be able to be developed if nobody knows, has any education? Now we've got 150 law schools in China, 150 law programs. We have 154 in the United States. We have 54 Chinese law programs in the United States now, 1/3 of all American lawyers.
Excuse me, just to clarify one thing, in China now we have about 600 law schools and law departments.
Law departments. You're saying law departments.
Yes.
Sure.
The problem we are facing is very different from 20 years ago. 20 years ago, our problem was there was no laws to follow.
Right.
But nowadays we have laws, but we don't have rule of law.
Okay, thank you very much. I have to leave you there for the moment. You are watching Voices and Votes on CCTV International. For more information on the current policy debates and the legislative process, please check out our website at cctv.com. We welcome your opinions and comments. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this short break.
China's annual political meetings will set the policies affecting 1.3 billion people. Our correspondent Mao Shujue reports live from the venue.
Of the new socialist countryside.
Feng Jinchao brings you the daily focus.
Establishment of a harmonious society.
And Han Bing travels across the country, probing the policy connections with the people.
Every important field in China.
Join us as we examine China's political agenda. Highlights this March, only on CCTV International.
Political participation and transparency are the keywords guiding our special daily program. Tune in between 7 and 8 p.m. Beijing time for a special daily live broadcast. We shall take a closer look at the rule of law and democracy in today's changing China. Stay with me and stay tuned to Voices and Votes during the first 2 weeks of March. Welcome back to Voices and Votes, our special coverage dedicated to the ongoing annual sessions of China's top legislative body and the top advisory body. Raising a high qualified motion has become a major topic throughout this year's session of the NPC. And at this year's NPC session, more attention is being paid to just that, quality, rather than quantity. Our reporter Xu Zhaoqing got together with a few deputies this morning to discuss how they go about putting together a high-quality motion.
I brought a bottle of polluted water from my hometown to this session, along with my motion on environmental protection in rural areas. It drew a lot of attention from the deputies.
Mao Fengmei, a village head from the northeast countryside, told reporters that throughout his 15-year career as being an NPC deputy, he has never brought a vague question to a session. Mao is very happy that the bottle of water played such an important role in solving environmental problems of his hometown. All the deputies agree that motions have to reflect real-life problems, and that largely depends on meticulous investigations. Deputy Wu Haiying's motion on drinking water safety in central Ningxia's rural area has been adopted to solve the water problem in the region.
The motions have to be pertinent to the most urgent questions, and the solutions provided must be practical.
Rational thinking before the motion comes into being is necessary. We have to make it conform to the long-term interests of our nation and its people.
The deputies say the quality of recent motions have improved at the last 3 sessions and especially at this session.
Demand for quality motions this year is even higher. It has to be a good subject, with a good content, and a good solution must be provided to make sure it can be adopted. That's the responsibility of the deputy.
The 10th National People's Congress has received altogether nearly 3,000 motions and about 23,000 suggestions. The quality has been much better this year. The deputies now pay more attention to research before the motion is made.
From the motions raised during this year's NPC session, we can see that the deputies have tried hard to gather information from the grassroots level. And from the deputies' speeches, we can likewise see that the People's Congress is working even harder to make itself live up to its name. Xu Daojun, CCTV, the Great Hall of the People.
Welcome back. Joining us now here in this panel discussion are Mr. Edward Lehman and Professor He Jiaohong. Let's get to the fundamental question of the oversight of the National People's Congress. Now, it seems the supervision of the People's Congress is endowed by the Constitution. It is meant to ensure the implementation of the Constitution, laws, the fulfillment of the administrative, judicial, and prosecuting powers, and the legal rights of citizens, corporations, and other organizations. The words sound and look beautiful. What about the implementation of this law? Is it difficult to actually carry it out, given the national realities here in China?
Well, yes. I mean, it is for any society. I mean, we have something called the due process that's spelled out in our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. And due process is now getting diverted through the Patriot Act. And so some people are saying, hey, they're going beyond their scope and their limitation, but we're doing it. Why? Because we're at this war situation, and we've got to be able to take a look at people's private records and not tell them about it ahead of time. So it's extremely difficult. It's a lot like sleeping next to an elephant. It's extremely dangerous.
Professor He, to my knowledge, this law of supervision by the People's Congress went through 4 readings. Was there anything controversial about the promulgation of this law?
I think I would like to answer your question in this respect, in this way, China's political system is different from that, say, in the United States. In the United States, they have 3 branches. That's the separation of powers and the checks and the balances. In China, the People's Congress of China is on the top. That's a supreme power. And under it, there are, we call it the government or state council, and the Supreme People's Court and the Supreme People's Procuratorate. So the state council, that's the government, and the Supreme People's Court, Supreme People's Procuratorate are all responsible for the National People's Congress. So the function of the National People's Congress is not only making laws for legislation, but they also have the power or responsibility to oversee the enforcement of the laws. Before that, some people said, the function between the NPC and the government may be divided like this. Decision making, that's a power of NPC. So the NPC function is mainly on the decision making process. And when they made the decision, when they made the law, that's a function of the government to enforce it. But as a supreme power in the country, the National People's Congress, especially the Standing Committee of NPC, should perform the duty of supervision to see if it's a good enforcer or not.
I'm afraid this supervision law is very political in China, and therefore